All right, and good morning, traders. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, of course, depending on wherever you are watching this from in the world. This is your host, Christopher Guzman, joining you for another Forex Trading Lounge live, presented, of course, by Kickstart Trading. Happy Monday, everybody. Today is Monday, the 8th of March, 2021. We have a little bit of a modified schedule this morning. We're only going to be together for an hour instead of the customary 90 minutes. So we'll be together between now and 9:30 a.m. I've just got some other things I need to tend to this morning, and just not enough time in the day. So, but at least we'll still have an hour together. There's a lot shaping up in the markets, including some pound strength that's coming into play, with exception to pound dollar, but that I think is driven by the dollar itself. So in any event, we'll get into it. But without further ado, once again, everybody, welcome to the Forex Trading Lounge. All right, everybody. So, as I mentioned, it does appear that we're looking at a bit of pound strength, with exception to, like I say, the pound dollar. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. And so you can see here, we're starting off with the pound dollar as we customarily do. Last week, on Friday, the market here closed above this trend line, right? So we broke this innermost trend line. And as I teach you inside of the Ultimate Forex Trading course, anytime we break one trend line, the market likes to make its way toward the next available trend line. Okay, and so that's exactly what we see happening, or having had happened here. The market broke the innermost trend line. It then kind of, hung out, formed this little range here for a little bit, but then ultimately broke south again and came back to the next available trend line. Okay, where it found support. And as of Friday evening, by the time we closed, this candle had closed above the trend line. Okay, so again indicating that the trend line was holding as support. Now, obviously, as we start the week, we're getting the test of this, because obviously, this right here is an engulfing bull, so just that alone warrants a test. But taken in, in connection with all of these candlesticks here, this little cluster of candlesticks here, and arguably you're looking at a 4-hour morning star right here. Okay, and so two reasons for a test: the individual candlestick on its own, and then the second reason, of course, is that candlestick taken in context with all the other candlesticks in the cluster. You have a full-fledged formation. Now, as we start the week, pound dollar has broken back below the trend line, and so now that we're back below the trend line, I should be anticipating that this is now resistance again, right? It's what was support becomes resistance, what was resistance becomes support. Now, again, that's as long as the market remains below. That could change. And even, over the next hour and a half or so, that could change. We could see the bulls come in and leave a nice body behind here and close back above, in which case this would be back to being support. Okay, so we're in a little bit of a limbo phase with pound dollar at the moment. I mentioned that I do think the pound dollar in particular is being driven by the dollar itself, and I'll get into that a little bit more in just a moment. But before I do want to jump over to the other pound crosses, which are rallying quite nicely this morning. So I'm actually in, I've not denoted this yet, but I'm in actively on pound Aussie. I got in at I wanted to get in at 8015. I was a little bit late to the party, so couldn't quite get in at 8015. Instead, I got in at 18022. Okay, so 180.22. So let me go ahead and actually put the long position on the chart here so we can see this. Okay, so 18022 was my actual entry point. I'm looking to take this up to the 144, the sub 144, and I'll show you that in a moment. But that sub 144 is located in this case at 182.96. So I'm actually targeting this all the way to 182.86. And in terms of the stop, I've got my stop loss set at 1.7930. Okay, 1.7930. Now, you can see that pound Aussie was stuck inside of this range for a little while here on this 2-hour time frame, right? Where we were very range bound. Here's resistance, here's support. Market really struggled to get out of this until finally it did. It broke to the south, and if you notice, what it did is it came back. It gave us not only a 38.2, so not only did it fulfill the 38.2, which I teach you the market often will do when we have less than that. It actually came back even further and gave us a 5.0, which is the technically, traditionally, the most sort of reliable level, if you like. And so, came back to the 5.0. At that 5.0, we also have the trend line here. This is the longer term outer trend line. And so, the market came down to that trend line, found support both from the 5.0 itself and from the trend line. And you can see the wonderful rally that resulted. Now, obviously, anytime you have a big rally like that, the market's going to pull back, right? Just like anytime you have a candlestick formation, the market's going to pull back, right? It's going to test it. More than likely, market's going to test it. So you should just sort of anticipate it. And so you can see, though, that even this move is following along with the fib pattern. Okay, so here's my fib pattern. So the capital fibs are here, and then my sub fibs are right here. So from the point, from that deepest point of retracement to where, that impulse move was actually rather large, and it didn't give me an official high until all the way up here. So from 76.89 to 81.11. Huge, beautiful impulse move there. You can see though that, once that happened, again, the bigger the impulse, the bigger the pullback should be. And so we saw a nice big pullback here back to the 69.4, at which point we then saw the market start to U-turn, and we're seeing it continue, since that U-turn. Okay, so I'm targeting up by that 144 because that's what my current sub fibs are telling me I should be targeting. And so until and unless that changes, there's no reason for me to change my outlook on this. And so far, the trade's off to a pretty good start. So I'm rather happy with this. Next up is Pound New Zealand. Okay, so Pound New Zealand is following on the pound strength train as well, as it were. And this is why I say to you, this is why I'm saying I think that in terms of cable, what we're seeing over on cable, I think that's largely to do with the dollar itself, not so much the pound, because I think there's some good strength inside of the pound this morning. And again, we'll talk more about the dollar side of it in a moment when we get to the dollar. Okay, anyway, up next, Pound Kiwi. All right, so in terms of Pound New Zealand, we've actually got a downtrend here. Okay, overall downtrend, but you can see that since around December or so, we've not really been in much of a shorter term downtrend, right? We've really been on the rally here, even as the market ranges back and forth, because this is actually a channel, so it is a form of a consolidation range here, right? And so even as this ranges here back and forth, what we're seeing is that the overall direction is to the north, right? It is an upward bias channel. And so, we don't want to go against that, right? We want to go with that as long as that's the way the market's still going, okay? And so I follow these fibs because of that. And so if we do, then we see, we've seen several completions at this point. And now what we have is we have a capital, or not so much a capital, but this is a sub and then a sub-sub. So I don't want to confuse you too much, but just think of it in terms of like a parent fib and a child fib, right? The parent fib is pointing up, and we have a 78.6, which is our deepest point of retracement. Oh no, sorry, that's an 86. I misspoke. There's an 86. So I'm actually, I even have it labeled here. I'm actually targeting 95.18, which is the 118 parent D extension. I can go even further than that to 95.54. That's the child's sub D extension, right, which is this 1.618. And the reason I can go in here is because I've got to pull back right here to the 50. Okay, just shy of a 618/50 fib. Okay, so I'm looking for the buys. I'm looking for continued buys here, all the way up to those targets. And I'm actually in this at the moment. I'm active on this. My entry was 93.76. So here again, I was a little bit late to the party, just ever so slightly late to the party. I had intended to get in at 93.70. That was my ideal, but I didn't actually get in until 93.76. Okay, and then for my profit level, like I say, I can actually take this to 95.18 as an option. Where do I have this set to? I'm actually going to 94.35, which is just above. I mean, sorry, it's on the way to 95.18, right? So I could technically actually go all the way to 95.18. But in this case, let me just see where I put my stop. I put my stop at 93.35. So 93.35. Yeah, so in this case, I'm only just going for the 1.5 to 1. Although technically speaking, I could go all the way up to 95.08. Right, that's target number 2. So if this was target 1, target 2 would be 95.08. That's 10 pips in front of the D extension, the sub D. But then don't forget, I not only have the sub D there, I've got the sub, which is 10 pips in front of the D extension here. So I've got really 3 targets I could go for, all of them to the upside. The first one being 94.35, which is the one I'm actually going for. The second one being 95.07, and the third being 95.54. And you know what? Now that I'm looking back at this, I actually want to change this, because I don't want to go for 94.35 anymore. I want to go for 95.07, because I actually think it could have the capacity, if you like, to make it there, to get all the way there. Because if you look at the channel, I mean, this looks to me like we are now attempting a push back up to resistance in the channel, which, if that's the case, then 95.07 is actually aligned very, very nicely with that, right? And so 95.07, let me go ahead and just update this on my broker platform here. 95.07. So 1.9507, or sorry, 95.08. 95.08. I have to update it on the chart. And so again, what I'm doing there is I'm just going 10 pips in front of that sub D extension, which is at 95.18. It's the 118 at 95.18. Okay. So let me actually update this as well. So profit level is 95.08. There you go. So straight away, what that's done is that's improved my risk to reward there from 1 to 1.5. 1 to 1.5 risk to reward ratio, up to a 1 to 3, just better than a 1 to 3 risk reward ratio. Okay, just by doing that. Okay. Next up is pound CAD. Now, I was in on a sell on pound CAD. I actually got out of this this morning. I took some profit off the table here. No, I took all my profit off the table here, I should say, because I just got out of this position completely. Reason being, I could see the pound strengthening. I could see the pullback, and I figured, you know what I'm going to do, rather than holding the position here and running the risk of allowing these profits to go all the way back on me, and even perhaps then some, okay, because you just don't know, right? You know, you just, when you see when you see a lot of strength lining up behind the currency, you just don't know how far that's going to go, right? And so I got out of here, you know, just to take the profits that were there, protect the profits by taking them out. And I figured if it's going to continue the sell-off, then what I'll do is I'll come in with a counter trend line and look for a re-entry opportunity based largely off that counter trend line. I do see some additional selling opportunity here, though. I mean, you know, I do still have confidence in the fibs I'm trading. These are the sub fibs I'm trading here. I'm trading it down to the sub 1.618. Capitals are up, as you can see, but you know, part of my calculation here is the fact that we're inside of this consolidation range, right? This longer term here, medium term consolidation range. And so that's a big part of my consideration in terms of continuing the sell, right? But in any event, you know, I did want to get out of this just to get my profits off the table, and then, you know, look for a re-entry opportunity. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't have one just yet, obviously, but you can see the little bump in the stochastic. We jumped from the buy zone straight back to the sell zone in no time at all. And so I do anticipate that pound CAD could continue the sell-off, and if it does, I'll be sitting there sort of waiting and ready, right? The last one here is pound yen. Now, pound yen's a little bit of a pain in my you-know-what this morning, only because for a moment there it looked like it was going to go the other way for me. I do have an anticipated 2.618 at 150.83, but the problem is I'm just not so sure that we've got enough in it here to make it through on this push, okay? Reason for that is because if you look at the price action, right, look at how we formed a pretty solid resistance level right about, I mean, pretty much where we are, not far from where we are, right about the 150 level. It's pretty solid resistance there. And if you look, what we've had is we've had a dark cloud cover followed by another dark cloud cover. So you had dark cloud cover, engulfing bear, dark cloud cover, and obviously, you know, we have just had a test here again, but at least for now it appears the dark cloud cover, you know, does seem to be relatively strong. Now this could change. I am actually in on this on a buy, so I'm a little bit upside down on this at the moment. I'm down about 20 pips or so on this particular one, but you know what, that's okay, because this could also change because of that 2.618. Now, you know, I took the buy because of that 2.618, though, you know, you can clearly see I'm very aware of all the formations that suggest that maybe a buy isn't such a good idea here, right? I'm still in on the buy regardless, but like I say, you know, if things don't change, if this were to close, like for example, if this were to close looking the way it does right now, and let's say we didn't have another hour and 10 minutes to go, and you know this was closing time now for this candle, then what I would be looking to do is just cut my losses. You know, I'm down about 20 pips or so on it at the moment. Take the 20 pips off, you know, cut the loss, and look to set up to go the other way in favor of these formations here. That's, again, I can't stress this enough, that's if the market were to close with this current candle looking exactly the way it does, right? We still have a while to go yet before that happens, before we get to the close of the candle. So I'm not going to close. I'm going to ride this out, right? I'm going to just leave it alone and see what happens at the end of this candle, right? At the end of the 1 hour, just over 1 hour that we've got left, and now about an hour and 10 minutes to the close of this candle here. Okay, if I drop down to the 1 hour just to see what's happening, I see there is actually a bit of room, a bit of capacity for this to continue rallying. I mean, that would be good. I'm not expecting it, so if it happens, then great. It's a nice bonus, but I'm not actually expecting it for the reasons I've already said, right? But I mean, on the 1 hour, that does actually look a bit promising. You have an engulfing bull right there. Okay, so just a quick recap before we move on. In terms of the pounds, okay, all of our pound pairs across the board here. So pound dollar, just to kind of start, just end where we began with the pounds. Pound dollar, all right, we broke this trend line here, and it looks like the bulls are really struggling to break this back above. Okay, now that makes sense because I'm actually anticipating dollar strength, okay, and I'm actually already positioned on 3 pairs, across 3 pairs, Aussie dollar, Kiwi dollar, and dollar CAD for dollar strength. Now, whether or not I'm going to regret that decision, you know, we're going to see. I'm going to come and review those trades in a moment and see, you know, how I feel about them. If I still like them, I still want to keep them or not. But you know, in any event, that it is what it is. That's how I'm positioned currently. Okay. Now, if dollar strength does in fact come into play, and the dollar has as much of an impact as I suspect that it might this morning on these crosses, then that would point to a pound dollar sell. Okay, that would point to a continued sell. Now, there's a couple of additional reasons to think that, you know, or to be in favor, should I say, of a continued sell. First of all, we are in an uptrend here overall, but we've broken not just the innermost trend line, we've now broken the secondary trend line. We've come back to the back side of that secondary trend line. We've tested it, okay? And at least for now, again, this could change, but at least for now, at this very moment in time, it appears as though that trend line does appear to be holding as resistance, okay? And so that, you know, that bodes well in terms of dollar strength. Now, there's a second thing going on here, though, and that's pound strength, right? I said that, I've been saying that, you know, since the start of the show, right? Since the top, I've been talking about the pound strength and how I'm actually trading on pound strength. And so, you know, you do have those two forces playing. I do think ultimately the dollar will sort of eke out but it may be a case that for the rest of the London session, pound dollar might just go sideways, and then come New York, then we might see a breakout one way or the other. Okay, and again, just giving a quick recap here. So I'm bullish on the pound this morning. Pound Aussie, doing nicely there. Pound Kiwi, same thing. Okay, doing nicely there. Pound CAD, I mentioned I was actually short on this last week. You can see this was my trade from last week. That was my entry point up there at 76.25. I made just about 100 pips or so on this, and then closed out just because I didn't want to risk the big rally. But I am looking for a re-entry opportunity now. So ideally I'd get a new sell signal here. So I'm just waiting for it, essentially, right? And then in terms of pound yen, I am actually long on this at the moment, and I'm actually just about 10 pips shy because I was a little bit late to the party on this one as well. So I wanted to get in at 150.02. I never did. It was actually 150.10 by the time I made it in, and so off by 8 pips. No big deal, but I'm gonna record it accurately here. So 150.73 is where I'm looking to target, and 149.60 is where I've got my stop loss. Okay, so as you can see, again, like I say, I am ever so slightly upside down on this. I was down 20 pips just a moment ago. I'm now only down 10 pips. So like I say, I'm not going to close this yet. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to wait and see, because while there are all these formations pointing downward, there's also a 2-hour 2.618 just there that I'm pretty interested in. Okay, and so those are my pound pairs this morning so far anyway. Let's move on over to the euro dollar. Okay, so euro dollar is really selling off, right? There's a 2-hour unfulfilled 38.2 that was an unfulfilled 38.2, is actually an unfulfilled sub 38.2, should I say. That's now been hit, it's been fulfilled, and the euro dollar is just still selling. Now, if dollar strength is in fact on the board here this morning, then obviously that makes sense for this, right? Because as the dollar strengthens, if we're trading the euro against it, then obviously the euro is weakening against the dollar, right? And so right in here, there's two things. So first of all, there's a nice little sub crown or sub crown there, which just indicates that there's good potential for this to continue selling off. The second thing that tells me that there's good potential for this to continue selling off is, of course, the fact that we have this secondary trend line right here, right? So we broke the innermost, and as I teach you inside of the Ultimate Forex Trading course, anytime we break the one trend line, the market likes to make its way to the next available, and that's what we see happening here. In terms of an actual entry opportunity, though, that's where the wheels kind of start to come off the wagon a little bit for euro dollar, at least for the moment, for the time being, right? It may just be a case that it's just a little premature and I've just got to wait. But there is not an opportunity for me, really. Not a very safe one. Not a very safe one. Of course I can get in, but I run the risk of getting in, trying to take advantage of a sell that's already over with. And actually, oops, hang on, I spoke way too soon. Sorry about that. Because I've actually just turned to the 2-hour, so the 4-hour doesn't look great, but the 2-hour actually has not only a formation, the stochastic is completely overbought, and U-turning, leaving the sell zone now. So, okay, this is very interesting, actually. 10 pips below, 10 pips below the close. I just want to see, I'm interested where this would leave me. 1875. Okay, 1875. And then if I'm just scalping that one candlestick, then I'm looking at Okay, 1928, 1928. So that's 53 in risk, which means I should go for a minimum of 79 in reward. So 1796. 1796. But you know what? That's actually not a bad looking move at all, really. So I may have just accidentally found a trade here. Problem with that is that it flies against, obviously, the dollar strength notion. And so this is when, you know, this point, this is when I want to kind of call in for reinforcements, as it were. And so what I mean by that is I'm going to pull up some trading tools, right, to help me to determine particularly correlation, right? Because whenever I'm suspecting that I have a currency correlation going on like this, you know, there are tools available out there that help me to confirm or deny that, right? And so one such tool is actually on our very own website. It's kickstarttrading.com. If you head on over to kickstarttrading.com and go to the free resources section, you will see the Kickstart Pro Traders Toolkit. Click in here and you'll see the option. It's the second one next to the economic calendar. The very next one is the currency correlation tool. So if you click that, it'll bring you down to the tool. Okay, and then in here, what you're able to see is the correlation. So, and I even give you instructions at the top. A correlation greater than 80 is a high positive correlation. Correlation greater than negative 80 is a high negative correlation. And anything less than 60 means there's just really nothing there at all. Okay, like at all. So don't even think about it, kind of a thing, right? So let's have a look. So, you know, it's the pound in particular that I'm looking at. So pound dollar. Straight off the bat, okay, pound dollar and pound yen, not really much there. Definitely nothing there between pound dollar and pound CAD this morning. Oh, and hang on, that's the 5 minute. Let me actually go up to the, okay, sorry, no, I was looking at the 5 minutes. So let me go up to the hourly. So you want to make sure you're looking at the hourly chart here. And so, okay, again, same thing though, you know, nothing changes. Pound dollar and pound yen don't seem to have any correlation this morning at all. But look at this, pound dollar and pound CAD most certainly do. Okay, look at that, 88.3 on the currency correlation there. Pound New Zealand, you can see not really much there. You see, so my suspicion of this being driven by the dollar is actually being confirmed here. Let me show you why. Okay, so we looked at the pound. We can see already, you know, against the pound yen, against the pound CAD, and the pound Kiwi, and even against the pound Aussie, there is no correlation there whatsoever. Okay, remember, I'm looking for anything above 80, either positive 80 or negative 80. Doesn't matter. I'm just looking for a number above 80. Okay, that, in a nutshell, to make it easier. The only one I really have that here with is the pound CAD. That's it. Outside of that, okay, if you look at euro dollar and pound dollar, 95, right? Look at Aussie dollar and pound dollar, 94. Look at Kiwi dollar and pound dollars, 93, right? Look at dollar yen, negative 91. So obviously a negative correlation, but a very strong one. Okay, so my suspicion about this being driven by the dollar is absolutely confirmed. Okay, there's no question in my mind. You know, I was able to see this inside of the charts. But now looking here on this chart as well, I mean, there is just absolutely no question in my mind that this is being driven largely by the dollar. Okay, if you look, even look at dollar Swiss against the cable, it's just shy of a negative correlation there. The only time where things kind of start falling apart a little bit is on the dollar CAD side. Okay. So, you know, this does appear to be dollar driven this morning. Okay, my suspicions are confirmed. So I want to go back to the pound here very quickly, just because that has been confirmed. I'm going to jump around here a little bit, so I hope you are able to stay with me, all right? But I am going to just jump around here a little bit to explain this. So dollar CAD, okay, the dollar index, the dollar currency index, it looks to me like we are chasing after this unfulfilled 38.2% at 92.52, okay? That's about 32 points from where we are currently, okay? Now, anytime we see points on an index, that usually translates into 2 to 3 pips on an individual currency. So for example, if we're looking at the dollar index here, and we say that the market should move 10 points on the dollar index, then that means for all the individual dollar pairs, it should be, 20 to 30 pips that are moved, okay? Because for every 1 point, that equals about 2 to 3 pips, okay? And so in this case, we've got about 30 points between here and the unfulfilled 38.2, which translates, of course, into between 64 and 96 pips per pair. Okay, just on that move right there. So that's why I'm paying close attention to this, right? I also have to update this trend line because obviously we have now made a new higher high, and it looks like we're gonna go for a new higher high even still, right? But this is what I'm looking at, folks. Okay, this is what I'm looking at. That strength right there is translating into some strength right here on the dollar CAD. You can see it already starting to come into play. Dollar yen, okay, I'm looking at 108.55 is ultimately sort of my ideal, though I do think this is very overbought here. I do think this is kind of ripe for a pullback at some point, but I don't think, I think there's still room actually for this to continue rallying here. I don't think we're quite done yet with the rallying. And so in any event, I'm looking at 108.55. A break of 108.50 would confirm what my suspicions are here. And so I'm set up to actually trade this at 108.55, looking to buy at 108.55. And actually, I thought I was. So I actually started to set this up and I never finished. So let me actually set this up right now in real time. So again, as I mentioned, I'm looking to get in at 108.55. Okay. The high here, as you can see, of this previous candle was 108.52. So I'm a little bit close in terms of, how that goes. But if you look at where the cross actually occurred on the stochastic, I can actually use this candle right here, in which case I'm at 108.47, okay? So, in that case, I am a little bit more in line with my rule of 10 pips, and so I'm actually technically going off of this candle and this candle, really. But I'm only going to go for a 1 to 1.5, so, I'm not looking for any huge move here. But I do want to go for a 1 to 1.5. So 108.55 and 108.22. That's 33 in risk. So I want to go for a minimum of 50 pips in reward. Okay, so that's going to put me at 109.05. 109.05. And I do think dollar yen is just dying to break 109. I think there's so much buying pressure built up behind this, and the bulls are just dying to break this up to 109, break 109. Will we actually get there? We'll see. All right, but I'm gonna go ahead and set up anyway, just in case we do. And so this is dollar yen, so just bear with me. I'm gonna go ahead and set this up. Dollar yen, and I'm looking at 108.22 for my potential stop here, 109.05 for my profit target, and I'm looking to get in with an entry buy stop here at 108.55. Okay, and so I've gone ahead and placed that now as well. Okay, so that's the dollar. So we kind of inadvertently had a little sesh on the dollar here as well, but that's a good thing because now we can kind of go back and I can show you what I'm looking at. So in terms of euro dollar, okay, that's ripe for a sell, pound dollar may well be as well, even with the pound strength I've been talking about all morning. Okay, again, because of the pressure behind the dollar, built up behind the dollar. In terms of Aussie dollar, okay, just to shift gears here a little bit, to come over here for a second, I am in on the Aussie dollar. Okay, I got in at 7663, and so this is my actual entry right here, 7663, with a stop at 7739. And I'm looking at the take profit here of 0.7549. 7549. Okay, so that's my position right there. You can see it's a 1 to 1.4 thereabouts. I do have plenty of room to the downside here, plenty of justification for selling, including some unfulfilled 382s here in the overall capital uptrend. But that 7739, 7740 level has proven to be a pretty solid level of resistance here, you can see, and then just above that, 7790. Right, 7790 has proven to be a very solid level of resistance as well. Okay, and so as long as we remain below those two levels, I'm looking to continue selling this. And again, you know, this makes sense for the dollar strength projection here, right? Because again, you know, if you think about it logically, as the dollar strengthens, anything traded against it is going to weaken against it, right? Because you think about it, right? You're not, whenever you're trading currencies, you're never actually trading one currency, right? You're always trading in pairs. You can only trade in pairs. So you're always trading one currency against something, right? And so one currency is always going to be strengthening, and the currency that it's traded against is going to be weakening if that's the case. Okay, and so if we have a strengthening dollar, if you think of pound dollar, right? We have a strengthening dollar. Well, the pound is weakening, right, against it in relation to it. So even if everywhere else on all the other pound pairs, the pound is strengthening, relative to the dollar, it's weakening. Hence why we get to sell when everything else is a buy. Okay. In terms of pound dollar, let me just go back for a second. So that was Aussie dollar, Kiwi dollar. Let me just take a quick look here. So I'm just looking at Kiwi yen as well here. Kiwi yen, nice little consolidation range here. Pretty tight little consolidation range. Not really something I'm particularly interested in. I just wanted to check very quickly. Anyway, let's go back. So I'm active on Aussie dollar, active on Kiwi dollar. Dollar yen's going to take me in any second now. Look at that. 537 is what I'm showing on the broker side. So yeah, that should be any second. I'm within a pip or so of getting in on dollar yen. That's going to be a buy. And then let me actually go back there for a second. Okay, so that's going to be a buy. And then dollar CAD, I'm already in on the buy on dollar CAD. Okay, got in at 26.75. Okay. And then again, the dollar index, I'm looking for that to chase back to that unfulfilled 38.2. Now, it looks to me, okay, coming back over to the pound dollar here, it looks to me as though resistance is going to hold. It looks like resistance is very likely to hold here, okay, and continue to push this down. So I actually was looking at a potential setup on this. Just jot this down here so I can easily read it back to you what I was looking at. Right. So I was looking at an entry at 3,800 with a stop at 3,881 and a take profit at 3,680. Okay, and you can actually see it there. There's the 3,680. Now that would be in line with the sub fibs that we see here. it would also be in line with what I'm anticipating, right? Which is that we have the unfulfilled 38.2% in terms of the capital AB boundary. We've got that down at 135.16. So I'm actually bearish on this, technically speaking, because we're headed back toward the B of the AB boundary. I'm expecting that as long as we continue to do so, and eventually if we break below the B high, that's even better. But I'm anticipating that eventually we're making our way back to try to get that unfulfilled 38.2. So I'm actually bearish on this all the way down to, like I say, 35.16 as a potential target. Again, as long as the bears continue doing what they're doing here. 3,800 and going down to the 36.80. I still think that's a pretty good move there. And in terms of the dollar strength that we're talking about here, that would also be in line with the dollar strength that we're looking at. So I'm actually going to go ahead and set this up. I do have a pending buy here as well, but I think the sell is more likely. I'm going to leave the buy in for now anyway, just for now. But over the next 2 candles or so, I'll probably take the buy off and just leave it with the sell, depending on, of course, what happens. But the stop here I'm going to put at 1.3860. No, sorry, 1.3881. So it's 81 pips in risk, and I'm looking to take this down to 136.80 with an entry sell stop at 13800. Okay, again, like I say, so I've got the buy and the sell in at both times here. Whichever one takes me in first is obviously going to be the one I'm going to go with. The reason I'm doing that is because there's good potential in either direction here, though I am particularly biased toward the downside here because of that dollar strength and because of what we're seeing in terms of price action here. Okay, so yeah, with that, I'll just give you a quick update here on where things stand, and then I think we'll go ahead and wrap up for the morning. So for those just joining in now, welcome. I think we had 1 or 2 come in. Welcome. So just to give you a quick recap, okay, I am kind of hedging my bets on pound dollar a little bit this morning, in that I've got 2 pending orders, 1 buy, 1 sell. That's because there's 2 things going on this morning, 2 key takeaways, 2 things that are happening simultaneously. Both pound strength and dollar strength are happening simultaneously in the markets this morning. As evidenced by pound Aussie, you can see some wonderful pound strength in there, moving really, really nicely for me. Pound Kiwi, okay, no different, moving beautifully there. I'm looking to take this all the way up to the top of the range. I actually originally was targeting 94.35. I said I think there's actually scope for this to go further. So I actually moved the profit target, not because I'm trying to be greedy, all right, but because I can see some good scope here for this to go further, okay? So why not, is the way I look at it, right? And then in terms of pound yen, I'm in on a pound yen as well. Though I am upside down. I'm down about 15 pips at the moment. This is fluctuating all over the place. This too could go either way. You do have a bunch of bearish signals here, but then, again, like I say, this could go either way because the last 6 hours or so have all pointed toward continued bullishness. So we'll see what happens, okay? But I am in on a buy there, a little bit upside down there, but I'm up obviously on pound Kiwi and pound Aussie. I was active on a pound CAD. I took out my profits on this at about 100 pips. I was up 100 pips. Decided to take out my profits because I wasn't quite sure just how big the pullback here was going to be. And so I'm now looking for a re-entry opportunity because I do think there's still some room to the downside. But I'm obviously going to wait for the pullback to finish and look for the opportunity to get back in shorting. Okay. And then again, like I say, in terms of pound dollar, I am sort of unofficially hedging my bets because I'm not actually in this yet, but I've got 2 pending orders. Euro dollar. Actually, euro dollar was one that I wanted to take that I never got a chance to, so let me actually do that now. So again, I'm going off of dollar strength here, so naturally euro dollar selling makes sense. And so I'm actually looking at 1928 and 1875, so that's 53. Right, so this is Euro USD. And I'm taking this to 1796. And I'm going to have to just get in this. At market, I'm off by a few pips, but I'm off by about probably about 5 pips by the time I finally get this friggin' order in. But that's okay. Off by 4 pips. I was off by 4 pips. So I did go ahead and take that sell. And that is, my entry was at 1871. Okay, 1871. Stop loss at 1928 and a take profit at 1796. Okay. Before we go, because we are going to wrap up here for the morning, but before we go, I did just want to have a quick glance across to the euro pairs and see if there's anything shaping up on the euros. And actually there is. There does appear to be some decent stuff happening. Let's see if any of that actually translates into an opportunity here. So I'm not crazy about the look of Euro JPY. Euro Kiwi, on the other hand, looks really nice for a buy on the 2-hour here. I'm just going to do some simple fibs from high to low. Okay, so we got a 382, so you've got plenty of room there. I've got plenty of room up to 69.46. So let me see what this looks like in terms of an entry opportunity. 10 pips above is going to put me, I'm going to go technically 11 pips, 66.75. Okay, 66.75. And then you can just go 10 pips below this. I'm going to go a little bit further than 10 pips just to bring it down to even. So I'm going to go to 166 even. And then I can go 10 pips in front of this D extension. That is one of my options here, right? So 69.46, that'd be 69.36. That would be one of my options here. 69.36. So that would be 261 pips and risking 75 to get there. So not a bad deal at all, really. I'm obviously a little bit late to this party because the market's moved by about 10 pips already, but in the grand scheme of things, 261 pips. What the heck do I care about 10 pips, right? Why do I care about missing 10 pips if there's 200 that I'm looking at potentially on the table, right? So 16600, 169.36 for target there, and I got in right at 85. Oh no, I got in a little better actually, 83. 838. Okay, so I went ahead and took this right at market. This is 66838 with a profit target at 69.36 and a stop loss at 6600 even. Okay, so you can see literally going for a 3-to-1 right there. Euro Aussie actually looks pretty nice as well. So I'll just have a quick look over here at Euro Aussie. Okay, and so 10 pips above It's going to put me at 55.04, so I'm a little bit late on this one too, as you can see. So I've got to be aware of that, got to keep that in mind. However, 54.33, let's have a look. So 55.04 and 54.33, that's 71 in risk. So I'm going to go for a minimum of 106. However, this has come back to a 61.8, so I've got plenty of room here. I really do have plenty of room potentially to the upside here. So, you know, I could go 59.50, 159.50. That's a good target. That's a long ways away. It's a very long ways away. If I want to go, you know, maybe keep things a little bit more conservative. Let's have a look. Problem with this is, you know, it is a bit far off of where my entry would have been, but I do think there's enough room. So do you know what I could do? I could actually go to 10 pips in front of that B high. So if that's at 56.91, then I'm going to go to 56.81, which is just there. Okay, and when I do, you can see if I do 56.81, then that's 177 in reward when I would have only risked 71. Now obviously it's a little bit more than that because I'm risking at this point about 100, but there's still some decent opportunity there. So I'm going to go ahead and take it. This is Euro Aussie. Euro Aussie 54.33, and I'm looking to take profit here at 156.81. Okay, so I went ahead and got in on Euro Aussie as well. Again, you know, I'm a little bit off where ideally I would have liked to have been, but that's okay because I do think there's still some good room here for this to move. So 155.276 was actually my exact entry, to be totally exact. Profit target at 156.81. Stop loss at 154.33. Okay. So, with that being said, everybody, unfortunately, that about does it for me this morning. That's all the time I've got. I have to run. But I do thank you for joining me, and if you are watching this after the fact, then of course thank you for watching after the fact. I hope you found tremendous value in this, hope you really liked it, and I hope it helps you. For more tips and tricks, come back and join us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button if you like what you saw here today, and to join the Kickstart Trading family, check out the links in the description down below. Join our Facebook group, and yeah, don't forget to subscribe. All right, with that being said, everybody, that does it for me. Like I say, we will be together again next week, next Monday. So until then, have a wonderful week. Happy trading, everybody, and until then, as always, my friends, to your health, wealth, and happiness. Christopher Guzman signing out, saying good day. Bye-bye. Thank you.